Good morning, council staff. See who we're missing. And there's Councilor Armour, and we're all here. Great. Happy to call the meeting to order and confirm that we have quorum and everyone is present. And I will ask Councilor Whitty to read the land acknowledgement statement.
Thank you. 1 second while I pull it up here. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robinson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thanks for that. I have a resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Alcock and seconded by Councillor Schumacher. It is recommended that the special general committee meeting agenda dated Tuesday, March 1st, 2022 be adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that carries. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, I am going to put the resolution on the table for the main reason we're having this special council meeting, and that's to deal with Town Hall. So it is moved by Councillor Wiebe and seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. It is recommended that committee accepts and approves in principle report WG 2022-1 Town Hall Working Group final recommendations and directs the property manager as follows. A, to procure an energy audit, to conduct an energy audit, an energy auditor to conduct an energy audit on the town hall building at an estimated amount of $25,000 to be funded from the 2022 facilities capital budget. B, to prepare a request for proposal for design details and costs for exterior stair design option 4. And C, to prepare a request for proposal for design details and costs for interior design option 2. And further, that the town hall working group established on January 31st, 2019, Resolution Corp 5-19 be concluded. And with that, I want to thank the working group before we get started, because as that resolution indicates, they've been at it for 2 years. And that's a lot of work and a lot of time they put in. And that group consists of Ingrid Armstrong, Tanya Kalea, Jason Fisher, and previous to Jason, Pete Kingshot, Matt Huddleston, Christopher Nagy, Crystal Peroshki, and Lisa Smith. And as I say, they've been at it for 2 years, and we've thrown a lot of curveballs at them and made lots of changes as they work through this. So for everything you've done to date, and including putting together a pretty extensive package for us to look at, thank you to all of those staff members for your hard work. And I am going to turn it over, I think, to Chris, who's probably going to start with designs. But Chris, I will turn it over to you for now.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, if I could share my screen, that would be much appreciated. So does everybody see that drawing there?
Not yet, we don't know.
Oh, sorry, it's actually a schematic. Let me see here.
We only see you. And
only see me. Well, that's not too bad.
Here we go.
There we go. All right, perfect.
Great.
So thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you, committee members, for having us today for our final proposal. I don't want to take up too much of committee's time this morning, as I feel discussion towards the drawing and supportive report are the most important. That being said, I do want to again acknowledge the committee, and I appreciate Your Worship's words towards the committee. They are on the meeting today, so if there are any questions, we'll definitely deal with that at the end, as well as we have some representatives from Duncan Ross Architects who assisted us with the designs you're seeing today. With that being said, I do plan to go through option 2, which is the suggested option by committee, as well as option 4. The latter being the design concept that was requested by committee at the last meeting to keep the council chambers in the current location. So through the design options in front of you today, all have included better accessibility within the staffing area, encourage natural light to this area, and incorporated growth of staffing numbers. Further, the first three proposals have been designed to enable a change to the front access of the building by reconfiguring an internal front fire access or fire egress from the building. With that, I'll go over option 2 with the front entrance being revised to reflect option 4, which is on the screen right now. So yeah, we'll start that. This drawing in front of you is actually a design concept for that front addition to access that lower level. It includes a vestibule and the relocation of those public washrooms directly off Main Street. As per your package, this is the first floor, so the street level of the building, which proposal is council chambers being within the existing Club 55 area. So this option enables the council chambers to be on the first floor at street level and incorporates a new entrance to council chambers from the street level. This proposal will move the existing washrooms to the new entryway to accommodate the revamp of the interior staircase from the third floor to the street level. It proposed the entrance will be enabled to allow more natural light into the space, a direct barrier-free entrance to council chambers independent of the Algonquin Theatre. So I'll move to second floor. It's proposed that the high traffic departments, such as building and planning, remain on this floor. The option includes office being provided to senior staff and the remainder of staff being designated with cubicles. The floor layouts have also incorporated an independence to the main traffic corridor of the building to mitigate sound transfer between the staffing area and the Algonquin Theatre. Existing washrooms are proposed to be converted into accessible / gender neutral washrooms for staff. And we have proposed to relocate the staffing lunchroom to this level, which would enable staff to utilize the parquet at the rear of the building. This will remove the elevator above the office location at the rear of the building and can expand this area into usable, better fixed existing staff areas. So what I'm talking about is in this section with the removal of the elevator, we're actually able to reconfigure that space and provide additional staffing use in that area. So moving on to the third floor in option 2, much like the second floor, offices have been provided to full-time staff where cubicles and, senior staff, and where cubicles and desk spaces have been provided to supporting staff. The design has also incorporated a separation between the Algonquin Theatre and the town staff area. As you can see through a direct corridor has enabled access from this level directly to the street level. So this is the corridor going to the revamped staircase so that it can actually exit directly out to the main level. With the relocation of council chambers, this space has been redesigned to include departments such as the mayor, CAO, clerks, and HR. Finance and corporate information have been designed to the existing staffing area. All in all, with this proposal, it adds an additional 7 workspaces, creates an additional 2 meeting spaces while creating a more secure area for all departments. So that's my summary of option 2. Your worship, do you want me to take questions on that proposal right now or go right into option 4?
I think we'll do all of them first, Chris, and then go to questions and discussions.
Sounds good. Thank you. So at committee's request, Duncan Ross, architect, was able to create a 4th option that includes the council chambers remaining on the 3rd floor with intended office spaces being removed in favor for cubicles. Although this proposal did allow for better accessibility within staffing areas, short of a new lift, nothing is proposed to be altered within the existing council chambers. Discussion had occurred to install a ramp in lieu of a lift. However, the length of ramp in this area far outweighed its benefits. In addition, I would caution that this approach would not allow for any alteration to the front entrance, as the existing stairwell configuration at the front of the building would need to remain to allow for exiting to external front stairs of the building. With that said, I'll go over the proposal. So 1st floor, no alterations are being proposed. However, the space could benefit by the removal of the existing kitchen being in this lower corner, as it may not be needed in future use, and it would and by removing the dividing walls, it would entertain additional natural light into this space. 2nd floor. So much like 2nd floor offices, similar to proposal 3 of the package, the designer suggested removing all the existing offices except for those for senior staff to enable the use of cubicles. A wide array of cubicles were used to fit with existing offices and entry doors to mitigate the need for extensive renovations. 2 barrier-free cubicles have been proposed on this floor. So what we're saying about in this design, because these offices are basically existing and this office is existing, we suggested using smaller cubicles along the window wall. And then these 9x9 are the barrier-free cubicles that are being proposed. So then I'll move on to the 3rd floor. So much like the 2nd floor, offices have been provided to senior staff, where cubicles and desk space have been provided for supporting staff. A small reconfiguration of the existing copy room is proposed to ensure that there is no need for attendees of the council chambers to go into staffing areas. In addition, like the other proposals, a lift is being proposed as an alternative to the current elevator. One thing to note in the council chambers is that accessible turning radiuses have been noted on the drawings. However, while the room is being used, some of these areas will not be as accessible due to persons at the council table. So what I'm addressing there is these turning radiuses, the 5-foot turning radius, which is the design minimum, because they are fairly close to the council tables. Should someone need to turn around in that area, it would just affect the individuals around that table at the time. But in short, that's our summary for today, and we're looking at any comments moving forward. So I will stop sharing and
Thanks,
leave it
Chris.
to your worship. Yeah.
Is there any presentation notes being presented by Duncan or Heather at this time, or are they here just to answer questions as well?
So they are here to answer any questions at this time. No additional notes.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for general questions then, and I will start with Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks, Chris. Like the mayor said, I want to thank the working group for all of the work that went into this, and getting the package was really, really helpful and very different from last time. So that's very much appreciated. And I've got these maps and schematics all around me. So if I seem a bit discombobulated, I apologize. So a couple of things. Of the old options, I see why you selected option 2 for the interior. It certainly it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. I love the idea of the washrooms being closer to the main street, relocated there. It seems more accessible to the public. So that's kind of cool. But I also, it's funny, I see some similarities, and you may balk at this, but between option 2 and option 4, that I think I will state right off on the record that I still am in favor of option 4 in an interior, from an interior perspective, because I do like the concept of having some type of public space in the old Club 55. And having said that, I do have a couple of questions. But I wanted to just state on the record, sort of conceptually, I still am in favor of that. But I wonder, in looking at option 2 on the main floor, you've proposed, I think, a meeting room off the new council chambers. And I look at option 4, and you've got the public space, and I think you've put playroom or something. And I recognize that one of the biggest components of needs was the need for new meeting space, that we're constantly looking for new meeting space. So to me, I think the two shouldn't be mutually exclusive. The idea of having a public space, we could still accommodate something like a meeting room, because I think actually the public is looking for meeting space as well. So I thought that there, we could actually incorporate having meeting space in that option 4 on the first floor. And I wondered if committee had considered that. So that's one. In option 2 that you're recommending on the third floor, it looks to me like there are extensive renovations where the old council chambers was. And, and I understand it, because that's now going to have offices and cubicles and that sort of thing. And also to make it extremely accessible. So, but in option 4, where we're proposing to keep council chambers in its current location, the recommendations around any sort of extensive renovation are very minimal. And I wondered if the committee had considered having similar extensive renovations to make it extremely accessible, and also to deal with the barrier issues with the theater from a noise perspective. And I sort of think if we thought that we wanted to keep council chambers where they are, if we could consider having more renovation that would make it absolutely accessible, because I'm assuming that from an accessibility point of view, if you're having offices on the third floor where council chambers are, then you want to make all of those offices potentially accessible. So I guess that's my question: was there consideration for more extensive renovation on the third floor to make our council chambers, bring them up to code, and then the issue around the meeting space off the public space? That I think there are more synergies that could have been explored there.
Chris, do you want to respond to any of that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Your Worship. So one of the things that I give kudos to our design group, Duncan, for coming in, is a lot of the existing load-bearing walls were incorporated into those areas. So when we speak, you're absolutely right. It appears that there is a lot of interior design work on the proposal 2, third floor entity. However, the load bearing walls, so if Deputy Mayor Alcock could understand, that council chamber's ceiling is lower than the remainder of the building and everything like that. And that's due to, the difference in building roof height and everything like that. So those load bearing walls to take out and reconstruct and everything like that would be a larger undertaking, and I don't believe would be fully beneficial to revamp the existing council chambers. So that would be that comment. And then, as I indicated, we did look at putting in a ramp into the existing council chambers and everything like that. However, the length of ramp took up about a third of the room. So that's where we're continuously suggesting a lift to be put in there to actually make it more accessible than it currently is. So those would be my two comments on that aspect. As far as the first floor and the playroom entity, that was a labeling aspect, and we could utilize that space for potentially anything. So yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Councillor Weed.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Chris, and thanks to the entire group for this. This package was really beneficial. I can't tell you how much easier this is to follow, on our own time and really get into it. A couple of questions. One was, are we reimagining the cubicle space regardless of the design, whichever option ends up being chosen? Are the cubicle designs, is that meant to be just flexible space for staff that we can sort of people can come and go as they wish, or are we still going to stick with more of the traditional, this is your cubicle, this is where you work? I'm just thinking in a post-COVID kind of framework. So there's that question. And then the other question would be the redesign of the exterior, adding the vestibule with the exterior options. Are those, if we were to choose, say, option 2 for the interior and putting the council chambers on the main level, or for that matter, a public space on the main level, would that compel us then to create a vestibule and a new entrance to the front of the building? Or could you go with the more traditional staircase as kind of the way it is, and still have a council chambers or a more accessible public space on that main floor?
Chris?
Yes, thank you, through your worship. So with respect to the cubicles, it's kind of a hybrid model. So on option 2, we've also added within the existing staircase the suggestion of hub desks in the at that front section of level 2. So that would be kind of, in my mind, selfishly, I think about my inspectors who traditionally don't need to have a office space all the time. However, would like to come in and set up in a hub desk and maybe print off some documents and things like that. So it's kind of a hybrid model. With respect to the cubicles, they would be dedicated to the full-time staff. So like plans examiners that need to come in, planners, finance staff, so on and so forth. But you're absolutely right. Kind of the layout itself is more flexible once you open that area up, and you can kind of configure it how you want to by using cubicles. With respect to the vestibule and the front design, that was the whole reasoning why we didn't actually incorporate the vestibule in the proposal of option 2, so they can be looked at separately. So you could, in fact, potentially support option 2 with keeping the existing staircase as it sits. And not changing out the front entryway or anything like that. So they are independent of one another, but as a committee, we see value in, hey, do you put those public washrooms at the front? Obviously King Street is now a pedestrian path that leads directly down to River Mill Park. So I think there's some beneficials of, you know, maybe directing people to town hall rather than potentially directing them to another building with washrooms down there, right? So that's kind of the merit on why why committee is suggesting this revamp to the front, and that's where we're standing. So yeah.
Councillor Stone.
Thanks very much. I thought we were going to review the front steps and the interior separately, but I understand they're directly correlated to each other. Like everyone else, thank you for all the hard work. Holy mackerel, there's a ton of information here. So regarding the front steps, I don't like the conflict between the classic and the modern design. In fact, I prefer the stairs going not directly in front of the doorway, but actually going down the side a little bit. It keeps in character with the building and our heritage, and I like that. I love the little seating area out front. I think that will be used by visitors all the time. My question regarding this stairwell that I like, I don't see or understand that there's washrooms directly under those stairs. And is that possible? Did you want to address that before I move on?
Go ahead, Chris.
So yes, through you, your worship, I'm actually taking notes of everybody. So if you'd like to continue on, then I'd be happy to address it further. I'll also look to see if we do have another floor plan for, I believe, the stairs that you're looking at. So
right, that's option 2 for the stairs, is what I like. The option 4 is what I'm liking for a couple reasons. First of all, the pillars that would have to remain in the public space or in the council chambers. I don't like those pillars at all. I don't think it's dignified for the council chambers to have 2 pillars in the middle of the room. So I just can't get my head around that. As far as the public space and whether we leave it as public space, I'd be happy to understand if there is extreme pressure for more offices, more meeting spaces, whether that whole space be public or whether it be meeting space and offices and public space. I know we have Partners Hall down there as well. And I don't have a problem now that we've built the theater and have all that extra space and meeting rooms. We should be talking about it as a whole unit, not saying this is town hall and that's the theater. With regards to council chambers, I'm happy to leave it where it is for a couple reasons. Price, for one. Option 4 has a price tag of $300,000 as opposed to the others that are 1.8, $2 million. After streetscape, I don't know that this council really should be spending that kind of money right now. Where council chambers is right now, I don't know if we've explored all the possibilities. If we wanted to make it larger, could we potentially take out the 1 washroom right there? And that would give us a lot more room. I understand about the ramp. So maybe fixing the lift as opposed to putting in the ramp in that room. But that would give us a lot more room in the existing council chambers. So that's where I am. And financially, 300,000 is very important as opposed to the 1.8 million. The other question that I had was, if we go with option 2 for the staircase, speak to me about moving the stairwell. Why not leave the stairwell where it is right now? And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Chris, I'll let you tackle all of that.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Your Worship, and through you. So if I could share my screen again, I just want to make sure that I have the right option that Chair Stone was talking about. So is it up there right now?
There's a
That's all right.
There, yes.
So I believe that's the option there. So let me close that down. So this was actually the original design schematic when we presented the front entryway of what could happen down there with the exit coming off of the main street, having a small vestibule underneath the staircase, and then going into, at that time when we were presenting, Club 55, right? So as far as reconfiguring the space, the biggest restrictions are obviously the clock tower that's up on top in that space, as well as this shows the existing washrooms being maintained in that existing area and everything like that. However, to your question at the end about reconfiguring that staircase, why staff were suggesting to reconfigure the staircase and actually have it go out the side of the building at the lower level from the third floor is right now, in the event that there is an emergency, once the alarm goes off, people are actually directed through the staffing area to go down the front entryway and use that existing front entrance. With option 2, we're suggesting making a corridor. So in the event that that occurs, it's go through the corridor, go down a staircase and go directly out the side, right, of the building. So that's the whole premise of why we've incorporated that in option 1, 2, and 3, because option 4 was more or less, keep it the same. However, let's see how many staff members we can get in. We didn't feel, that construction was appropriate in that proposal. So, so I believe that was everything, other than the suggestion on within the council chambers removing potentially a washroom and looking at reconfiguring that. Is that hit everything? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I just need the screen back to see who's next, and I believe Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Yeah, again, as everyone else has said, kudos to the working group. I appreciated the package, and for me, it was a nice little nostalgia with some of the pictures of the old planing mills and some of those little places that I do remember growing up. Speaking of, though, I do agree with Councillor Stone, that sort of mix of, for the stairway and the front entrance, the mix of the old and new is kind of jarring to some extent. I'm sure I will get into the 20th century when it comes to that to some extent, but I do like the look of the old, and if we do end up going with option 4, I'm not completely opposed to it, but can we please have a lovely picture of the old staircase and everything in that front entrance so that we do have something that sort of remembers what it did look like. But I do like the option 2 for the look of the outside. I do understand option 4 with the new washrooms and accessibility, because that is obviously my big push too. So I'm kind of torn between the outside look and the let's go new and and have the accessibility piece. So yeah, I'll figure that one out for myself. The option 4 for interior and going with the existing council chamber, and to Deputy Mayor Alcock's point, if we keep it up there from an accessibility committee standpoint, and maybe Councillor Armour can also back me up on this, would we be able to have the accessibility committee upstairs in option 4 the way that you are suggesting now, or would we have to still do Partners Hall or do the public space downstairs as the better option for the accessibility committee, because we've never met in council chamber?
Yeah, so what all proposals are suggesting is by this lift, like the biggest hindrance up there with the elevator is you actually need 2 persons to actually run it, right? Which doesn't make it, when you're having a meeting, to have that second person get interrupted, or, you know, even the whole aspect of accessibility is to be independent of everybody and have that space accessible. So the lift will, you know, provide some allowances in that realm. With respect to the turning radiuses and turning circles and things like that, the only thing, as I noted before, once that space gets used, it is a busy space. We obviously have senior staff and management at that table, as well as all of council around and everything like that, right? So would it be fully accessible? By rights as per the code, yes. But it would be it'd be whether the accessibility committee does want to use that space, right? So the lift will be a huge benefit to that area. So I would say yes. I'm not sure, Duncan, I know, and sorry to call on you just out of the blue, but I know that you've looked at that space for accessibility several times, and I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Thanks, Chris. We did look at it in prior years, and it really did seem that existing elevator at the time there were complaints that it was not functioning well, constant state of repair. The fact that you did need a second person to operate it, it was just not a convenient thing. Going with the lift would make it just like if we went with what we call a limited use, limited application elevator, a LULA, then we can get to the point where it basically functions like a true elevator. You push a button, you get up, you go down, no one has to help you, and we can use that space that's there to get as large a cab as possible. That's really the main issue was if you have to replace the lift or the elevator that you have there now with something new, let's go with something that's half as annoying.
Crystal, did you have something?
Thank you, Chair Terziano. I just popped on being the coordinator for the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Just a couple little things to add. We do have members and could potentially have members moving forward who don't necessarily need the elevator or a lift, but because the stairs, they aren't standard stairs, they can just be a little bit difficult to navigate. So even though someone may not require a lift necessarily, the stairs do make it a little bit difficult. So I know that it was just a difficult room to navigate. I do anticipate that should council chambers stay where they are, that the committee would continue to meet on the ground floor, only because also for emergency purposes, should the fire alarm go off, the elevator no longer works. You can't use the elevator, obviously. So should there be an emergency, ground floor would be optimal. So I would anticipate if the council chambers remains where it is, that we would continue to meet somewhere on the first floor.
Councilor Schumacher, follow up.
So yeah. So to me, then follow up, I do appreciate the fact of having the council chamber on the main floor for committee meetings. I mean, I get that a public space, as Deputy Mayor Alcock has said, could become a meeting space as well. And obviously then it would then become the meeting space for the accessibility committee at that time. But yeah, if we want to have accessible meetings, then the ground floor seems to be the better option for council.
Councillor Withey.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for this detailed package. It's very helpful in looking through these. I gotta say, I kind of agree with Councillor Stone and his in what he said about these. I do like the more traditional option 2 for the front of the building. I think that speaks to the heritage and of the building and fits quite well. I do also agree with option 4 as for the interior space. Certainly cost is huge, but I don't think downstairs is an appropriate place for council chambers. I think the ceiling's too low. I think there's pillars. I think it would be quite noisy in there. I think it would be difficult. The configurations we saw, the chambers renditions, I think the mayor of the day would have to have a neck like an owl to be able to see what councillors wanted to speak next and keep everything sort of under wraps. So as it stands with what we're looking at, I'm in favor of option 4 with perhaps some tweaks, as Councillor Stone mentioned. I was wondering, is it possible, in the tiers that are in council chambers now, where the audience sits, is it possible to turn one of those into a ramp on a side, like take the stairs out and make that a ramp right down the side, rather than stepping on both sides? Just as a thought. But I mean, other than, I don't want to get too into the weeds here, those would be my options, would be 2 for outside and 4 for inside. And it's not lost on me that the pricing is just unbelievably different and I think more responsible. Thanks.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. Staff and committee, fantastic job. I love the package, and I know how much effort was put into this, so I really appreciate it. I don't have the same aversion to traditional, non-traditional on the stair options. I kind of feel that tying in stair option 4 lends itself to progress and forward movement, and kind of brings the theater type of building more in line with the steps in town hall. So we've made improvements and we've changed. This is progress. So and I know it gives us a better opportunity for the washrooms. I guess my consideration for, there's a lot of talk about accessibility. No one's ever mentioned that we're going to have a counselor or a mayor or an employee with accessible issues. So I think we're looking at deputations only, and we need to look at the broader scope of what the accessibility requirements are. And I don't know if we've fully developed that. I may be mistaken, and everyone has, but that's it. In option 4 interior, yes, I'm surprised by the pricing, but I think we'll find the pricing will come in even higher than estimated. So that's it.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the committee for putting this incredible package together. It's wonderful and a lot of work for sure, as we can tell. I sort of echo the comments of Councillor Stone with regards to the front of the building, and I like the traditional, I guess, the traditional aspects of those steps and so on and so forth. And if we could somehow accommodate what is necessary, washroom wise and so on, by maintaining those steps, I think that would be my first choice for sure. As far as the main floor, what is now Club 55, having that as a community room for arts and culture for whatever purposes, yes, I think that would be an adequate use for that. I don't like the idea of having the council chambers there at all, for the very many reasons I think that have already been mentioned. In terms of the current council chambers, yes, I'd love us to stay there. I think that's a classy forum for council meetings and so on and so forth. And I think that there are mentions in the report, of course, of sound and so on and so forth, but those can always be mitigated and improved upon for sure. The lift situation, I like that idea. The question I have for Chris and or Duncan would be, how many people could that lift accommodate? At the moment, the elevator we have now, I think, is pretty much a one-person elevator, but how many people could be accommodated by that lift? And how usable would it be in that sense? That would be my question. And as far as the my preferences, I would say, yes, keep the present stairs we have outside and keep the council chambers where they are. But the question with regards to the lift.
Chris?
Yeah, happy to answer that through you, your worship. So traditionally, because of the size of the space, it would be a one-person lift that would continue on. It's by no means a full-fledged elevator like we already have within the building to access all the floors. So in my mind, yeah, it would be an individual lift to be used. So
Councilor Armour.
Thank you, Your Worship. Echo thanks to the committee. I have to admit, I'm not a builder by trade, so looking at all these plans, laying them out on the table and trying to design what's best for here and there was a little overwhelming for me, but I do like the traditional look outside with the staircase. I think it fits into Main Street, across the road, even with the new TD Bank, when they renovated it, they kept the outside looking the same. It's been there for hundreds of years, so I like that traditional look. As for the inside, I think we need to do what's best for our staff and what they feel they're going to need. I think this building needs to be, if we're going to renovate it, it needs to be renovated for the next 20, 40 years of service. So we're not coming back to this table in 10 years saying we're out of space again. So when it comes to that, I'm probably just going to go along with what's ever best favorite for everybody here and what's ever going to work best for the town of Huntsville. And but I'm not in favor of spending a couple $1 million coming into an election year also. So that's my 2 cents. No questions, just comments. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. I've got a couple of questions. I'm probably going to put this down into bite sizes as a resolution and deal with the exterior first. I know we have $300,000 in our budget to fix the existing stairs out front. But from what I see in this package, if we wanted to do the front stair designs, whether it be option 1, 2, 3, IJ, whatever they're listed at, we're looking at about 600,000 plus, if I'm reading this report right. And I have a problem spending $600,000 on a set of stairs we don't actually use. So, and it's not about whether it's historic or whether it's modern. If we can fix the stairs that are there, that would be my choice to do, to leave the stairs, but to fix what's there. If we're going to replace them at $600,000, and as Councillor Fitzgerald says, it'll probably come in higher than that. I'm not sure I agree with that when there are a set of stairs that we don't actually use to access the building. So if we did an exterior design with a new set of stairs, and even the interior design of public space, the number 4, which has a price tag of $300,000. So we're looking at $1 million to almost do nothing except change out the front of the stairs. Am I reading those numbers right? And I'll ask that to probably Duncan, who put them together.
There we go. Sorry about that. It's hard for me to comment on that because I haven't seen how Chris has presented the numbers to you. I know that I put together a cost estimate for the options on the outside as one item, and then I have given you 4 estimates for the inside. So if you could you repeat the things that you want to keep about both, and I'm just going to go by memory and give you a number.
Well, I see those numbers you put together for the exterior of the building, whether it was a new vestibule or whether it was replacing the stairs at a few different designs, and they all range between $600,000 and $700,000.
Right.
So that was one figure. And then when we went to the interior, there are figures that range from $300,000 for option 4 to about $2 million for option 2.
Right.
Right. So those are the numbers I'm looking at right now.
Right. What of the interior options are you looking to marry with the exterior? Is because I want to make sure that there's no overlap before I start spouting numbers.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because option 4 doesn't have an interior set of stairs, so it would be one exterior set. But the other options have the stairs being moved to the inside. I take it that cost is within the new numbers we have for options 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, for options for the more present options, it's the cost of making the stairs go all the way down from 3rd to 1st. We'll say 3rd to 1st, even though it's basement. That's in those costs. So any of the options 1 to 4 that show the basement stairs or the stairs going down to the basement, that cost is included there. So then what happens is the outside work would then become more, I would say, cosmetic, really. And if really what would be nice is if we could take the 2-year-old front options and blend them with one of the options for the interior, and then I could provide an overall cost for that.
Okay, so I guess just further to that, Duncan, the cost for the exterior stairs or an exterior vestibule isn't actually married into option 2 in the new numbers of that nearly $2 million for interior. It adds a new set of interior stairs, but we still have to do something outside. We can't leave the crumbling stairs. So whatever we do outside isn't married into that 2 million.
No.
Okay.
It's
all
not,
right.
because we have to, and that's why I say but instead of taking the 600,000 for one of the options for outside and marrying it with the $1.7 million, I believe, with option 2, and saying, okay, now that's 2.3. I think, no, we need to look at the 2 together and say, well, we didn't really need to worry about this. We can cut this, we can make this change and come up with a hybrid that, and I won't say that we're going to lose $1 million here, but maybe instead of 2.3, it becomes 2 million because we find some efficiencies. We really haven't looked that closely at exterior and interior married.
Okay, that's good for now. Can I ask Jason Fisher about the $300,000 that's in our budgets for the front steps? Is that for repair of those front steps, or was that supposed to be towards the cost of replacement?
Through your worship. So originally, we had put forward a number just to investigate the exterior of the steps, and then at that point have a structural engineer let us know if there is an issue with the steps, and then that extra additional monies would be there to address that at any time. So like Duncan had said, until we actually address or investigate that area, we won't know the cost of.
Okay. Question about the interior design, the 6x8 cubicles. And I know somebody touched on this earlier, asking if they were, identifiable workstations or just floating stations, but is a 6x8 work cubicle enough space for people to work in? And I'll throw that out to whoever wants to answer it.
I'd be happy to take that. So those 6x8 smaller workstations, they were actually taken off existing cubicles that are being used at the town. So the second floor administration area at the front are 6x8 currently, and they seem adequate for that sort of position. In addition, as most of you know, building has moved to an online service, and planning is moving to an online service, which reduces, the need for the larger staffing areas. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. I just have a couple of quick comments too, and I think I know a lot of this work has been done to gain meeting space. I do believe that the existing council chambers or any council chambers should not be considered off limit to meeting space. It should not be a great big space that's limited to council meeting 3 times a month. So the use of the council chambers as meeting space should be considered as a given. And the other thing about the size of the existing council chambers, if we did stay with it as workable for us, I think it probably will need a bit of a facelift if we're not going to move it out. And I wonder if a new, different council table and even staffing tables, something a little bit smaller, would not create a bit more space in that room. So just a couple of thoughts. I see, Councillor Wiebe, you have your hand up again.
Thank you, Worship. A couple of quick questions. One is, the interior, regardless of how we proceed, is it a given that we're going to be beefing the insulation and air handling and efficiency of this building? So no matter what, we're touching the exterior walls and redoing them and the ceiling. So that's one question. And then the second question is, how do we know, and this might be a Julia question, if we were to go, regardless of what we go with, there's going to be an outlay of money. What would the parameters be for that money? Would we take out a debenture? If so, what would be the terms? Give me a sense for how we would pay for it, because it's not lost on me that if we have favorable terms, it's not nearly as scary as maybe we think. So those are my two questions. And lastly, I think that I'm actually still sort of in favor of the recommended option 2. I know I'm probably the only one, but I think that we're going to try and rework council chambers in a small, rather confined space. And I think long term, I think it's not going to serve us that well. So I'm still in favor of exploring the lower level as a council chamber. I know when we first looked at it, and I was on that committee when we first sort of toured the building and reviewed some of our options. I think it's doable. I think it's a good space, and I think it's conducive to being a little bit more public. I think having a chambers up in a back corner above, up a back set of stairs. I think if you tap most people on the shoulder in Huntsville and ask them where a council chamber is, they probably scratch their heads and try and figure out if they knew where we met. I think it's a little. I don't think it's a. Anyway, I'm in favor of relooking at it. Anyway, those are my prior questions.
Julia, you want to take the finance one first?
I can try and tackle that one. So depending on the ball or the amount that we would need to spend, so it depends on which option we go with. We would probably debenture if it is significant. Just looking at the rates right now, and I don't know what they would be when we actually go out to do it, because I think they're going up as well. But right now the rates are around 3.47% for a 20-year debenture.
Okay, and Chris, are you going to tackle the insulation?
Yeah, happy to, your worship. So through you, that's so within our recommendation, we are looking at energy auditor. And the whole reason being is we can look at, what would be the benefits and, potentially trade backs on re-insulating the exterior walls and insulating the attic space. Those issues aren't lost through the committee, and we've noted that in the report. However, we felt it appropriate that council would probably want, a report from a professional in that field to make a decision on. So,
Okay, and it should be noted that if the energy audit comes back and indeed says we need insulation in the walls and the ceilings and everything, that's not included in the pricing we're looking at today. That would all be in addition as well, correct?
that is
Councillor-
correct. Yes. Yeah.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. And I think the idea of the energy audit is maybe the best $25,000 this town might ever spend, because as we all know, we are committed ourselves to a 50% reduction in GHG by 2030, and this would, I would expect, go a long way towards achieving that particular goal for sure. So I think that would be very much money well spent. Back to your comments, Your Worship, with regards to the council chambers. I had the same thought actually, and I didn't express it earlier, but yeah, do we need the horseshoe to be the size it is now type of thing? Do we need 30-inch desks to operate it? At one time, of course, we had paper paper agendas, and we could spread it out all over the place, but now we're much more into the 21st century, I guess it is. So yes, I think we could reduce the size of those of the horseshoe, and that would increase the turning radius that Chris mentioned earlier with regards to the accessible, I guess the wheelchair accessibility turning radius type thing. That would create more room for that for sure. And as far as the staff table, same thing. And the other thought I had too, very seldom do we ever have a meeting that requires an overflow of constituents or people in the gallery at the council chambers. And when we do have that, then we have options too. We have a theater that we could move the meetings over to, that kind of thing. So I guess that just sort of reinforces my position with keeping the council chambers where they are now. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say I find all of the comments so compelling, and so I know I started off with my position around supporting option 4 for the interior, and I didn't really comment on the exterior, and so I wanted to just say I thought Councillor Stone's comments were bang on all of the things. I agree on the entrance, the front steps, and so I won't reiterate that. But there are a couple of things. I also want to support absolutely the recommendation number A to do the energy audit. I think that makes all the sense in the world. So that's a no-brainer from my perspective. So Councillor Thompson couldn't agree with you more. I think that makes sense. But I also find, given Councillor Stone made reference to the fact that looking at the interior of the main floor, that I think the words were, we should look at the whole, not separate the Club 55 from the rest of the main floor. If we were looking at Club 55 as a public space of some sort, that, let's try and look at that whole main floor and try and make the best use of that, adding meeting spaces or whatever. Right? Or additional offices, or keeping the old, whatever. So that I thought was a really important point. And I still love the idea of a public space, but then Councillor Weeb's comment, I thought also was incredibly compelling about council as a public activity. And I thought that's important, you know, people not knowing, well, where's council chambers, 3rd floor, and it's a bit problematic to get there, especially if you're trying to make it more accessible. And I think Councillor Schumacher, you know, again, very important point. Well, you know, if we're trying to really make our public activity more accessible, then we have to open it up so that it makes a whole lot of sense rather than trying to jig here and there. And it sort of works, but not really. It's not perfect. Will the accessibility committee be able to meet on the 3rd floor? Not really. I mean, yeah, it can, but it's not perfect. So that was another compelling reason as to why our most significant committee that we serve at the municipal level should probably be on the main floor. So in saying that, I think if that was the case and we decided to put our council chambers on the main floor, then I think it would be really important to look at the whole, as Councillor Stone said, look at the whole space and not hold the council chambers with such reverence. And I think, Your Worship, you said something about this, that it's a space that could be, as we do now, hold it for a lot of different meetings. And maybe it's, you know, it can be used for other things as well. I just think that we need to think outside the box there. And, you know, and maybe there is some value in looking at option 2, but, you know, as I said, rethinking the whole main floor so that we achieve both of the objectives that I think a lot of us had expressed, which is we want to open up the main floor to a really public space for a lot of different uses and a lot of different activities. And somewhere in there, we're incorporating our new council chambers meeting space. So that's what I wanted to say. And I really appreciate all of the comments. It's made me think.
Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree a lot with what's been said recently. I know Councillor Weeb and I have had this discussion about, you know, what does it mean to walk in that building and know where your council chamber is? I am the member for the town of Huntsville for the accessibility committee for the district. Walking into the district office, I know exactly where I'm going. It's open, it's inviting. You walk right there, the space is there, it's accessible for all. And that meeting is a big welcoming space that you can walk right in, and you don't have to navigate through the district offices to find where the chamber is, right? So I do agree that our council chamber should be somewhere that's right there for the public to be able to access. I appreciate that from an accessibility committee standpoint that we could meet in the same chamber as everybody else. And I agree with Councillor or Deputy Mayor Alcock. I mean, I've been to district committee meetings where they've had speaker schools and other events that have taken place in the district council chamber. So that is a space that then could be used by, you know, other schools to do their, you know, public speaking competitions in the council chamber. And wouldn't that be great to have young people come up with the idea that maybe one day they could sit there as well and lead our community and have the opportunity to speak in there and do the public speaking in that event when the Lions Club has done their public speaking. And I did that, you know, as a public schooler as well. And so I think those are the opportunities that we need to look for. As Councillor Armour said, I get that there's a price tag for this, but should be looking at it from what is going to make sense 20 years from now. You know, what is it that we want to present as the option down the road that's going to stand up? If any one of us break our leg, are we climbing up 3 flights of stairs? No, we're going to have to accommodate and move it downstairs anyway. So, and as Councillor Fitzgerald said, who knows, at some point we may have somebody on the council that does have accessibility issues and we have to accommodate for that. are we moving forward to accommodate for everyone? So that's my thought. I'd like to see the council chamber maybe on that first floor.
Councillor Armour.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'd just like to echo Deputy Mayor. I think we need to do this energy audit. I think that's the first thing we need to go out the door with and find out what we're dealing with. And my second thing, I really have a question now, is that I'm just wondering, Chris, what are the timelines on this to go out for an RFP, and when do you expect to get pricing back, and when will construction start? Because I'm just curious, should we be doing something, a major innovation, just as we're coming out of COVID, and the costs of materials today? They might be a lot less in a year from now.
Chris?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. So the purpose of this report today was actually to get a direction for the building, and more or less provide direction to the building manager. It was anticipated that if grants came up to offset the cost of this project, that we would actually take advantage of those. So again, it's more of a direction base right now, but the next kind of phase would be to get an RFP out to actually get technical drawings for either exterior or interior work, and then go through the RFP process, which obviously would be brought forward in front of council there. So that's kind of the direction of committee at this time. It was more to get a plan in place that if we were able to take advantage of some grants in the future, we'd be ready with kind of preliminary drawings. So,
Councillor Withy.
Thank you, Worship. I thought I saw some, just on that, I thought I saw something in these documents that said something about 2025. Was that an error?
No. So through you, Your Worship, 2025, there is already a scheduled large renovation, being that the roof is being replaced and HVAC units are being done. So in conjunction with that date, there may be some opportunity that if there was a large interior renovation that could be done in conjunction while staff are out of the building, that was kind of the proposal of committee. But yeah.
So that makes sense to me. I guess, I mean, I don't know. I've listened to the comments about where the council chamber should be. I think people who, it's very well signed. We do have an elevator all through the building. And I don't think that it's important that people walk in a door and see the council chambers first thing they open their eyes to. I mean, the district building was configured that way when they first built it. We've been using this town hall building for a long, long time. And I think that people know where council chambers are. And if they don't know, it's very easy to find. It's very well signed, and it is. And yes, we can make tweaks to deal with accessibility. I'm all for that, but I still don't think that's enough of a reason to move it from where it is. And I just don't think that room downstairs is suitable with the height of the ceiling and the pillars. I think the benefit that we have in our current council chamber is that sort of stadium seating where people can see over people's heads in front of them, which you wouldn't get downstairs. I think it would be, and to Councillor Thompson's point, 99% of the time it's virtually empty when we meet in there. So for the occasions that some big planning issue or whatever, we do have options to move next door into the theater if there's going to be 100 people show up for something. Anyway, those are my comments about the council chambers. I think that certainly the dollars are a big issue for me. I think any of the other options is big money that of taxpayers' money that we're looking to spend. So I still think that option 4 and option 2 are my votes. Thanks.
Councillor Thompson, last word to you, and then we're going to take a break.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just had to comment on the comment about finding the council chambers. I couldn't agree more with Councillor Withy on, I don't know of anyone that has ever had trouble finding our council chambers if they really wanted to, and getting access to it. Absolutely. And yeah, and if somebody, unfortunately, heaven forbid, does break their leg, I think we're allowing for that, because there's a lift in this proposal that would allow them to hop up the stairs on the lift and hop right into the council chambers from the lift, type of thing. So I find those arguments to really be a non-starter as far as I'm concerned. And Councillor Withy's absolutely correct. We do have the stadium kind of seating there, which is I think a real plus for anyone that wants to be in the gallery in a council meeting type of thing, so they can see it appropriately. So yeah, the idea of walking into a building, into the council chambers, yeah, and Councillor Withy's absolutely correct. I mean, when they built the new building for the district of Muskoka, well, of course they designed it that way. So yeah, absolutely. But we're not dealing with a new building here. We're working at preserving what we've got and making the best use of it, type of thing. So thanks, Your Worship.
Okay, I'm going to ask, when we take the break, I'm going to ask if the clerks could do a couple things for us procedurally. One, whatever we need to do with resolutions that's on the table. I think we've heard clearly we would like to pass part A of that and get an energy audit done on the building. So I don't know if we can have a separate resolution for that. I think we need a resolution to find out whether council is okay with the council chambers remaining where it is. Alternatively, if they would like to see it moved to the main floor, to the main street floor. So some resolutions that we could vote on that. And then the other piece of it that I think we need is a resolution that actually says whatever we move forward on when we're doing it, because we're talking about a major reno in 2025. Are we talking about one in 2023? Are we talking about something that's all going to be done at the same time? And I think we need to get our head around what the cost is of that, because we already know that insulation and a lot of that stuff is not included in the costs that we've seen today. And I guess finally, we also have some other big projects that the town's facing, such as we've just paid to do a review of the Medill Yard and whether we're going to spend a few $1 million on a replacement down there. We have the pool coming up in 24 or 25, which is a $1 million touch. We have lots of priorities, and I think probably part of making this decision is based on what our upcoming capital needs are and what ones take the highest priority. So I don't know, clerks, whether I've thrown too much at you, but I don't know how to sort through this and try to get some answers today to where we're at. Can I get Tanya or Crystal to weigh in? And if we take a 20-minute break, would that work for you guys, or Crystal?
Thank you. So I'm hearing that you'd like to divide the motion. So you'd like to divide it kind of into the three and vote on them each separately, which we can absolutely, I can work on and we can do. And then I'm hearing that you'd like to set dates. I'm thinking that you probably want to set dates for the stairs separately, and then set a date for the internal separately, because I do believe, again, depending on which option you choose, they could potentially be done at different times. So if you're good with that, I will prepare dates for both of those. And again, it's just to go out for a request for proposal for both of those right now. And that's what I will draft up if we divide the motion. So does that sound correct?
Yeah, but in addition to dividing that up into pieces, I think we also need to find out right off the bat, does council want the chambers to remain where it is, or are they interested in moving it? Because a lot of this stuff isn't really pertinent if the vote goes one way or the other. I mean, it's hard to say we take, interior design option 2 without knowing when that's going to be done, if it's tied into the 2025 rentals, what the costs are. And first, that's moving the council chambers. Does this council want to move the council chambers? CAO?
Thank you, Chair Terziano. So just to confirm, the recommendations in the report today are actually seeking the cost, because we do have preliminary costs. So I think it's fair to say that if you're looking for a specific date, I would have to rely on our manager facilities to speak up, but I would think that it would make most sense to tie it in with the renovations that are scheduled in 2025. But until such time as we actually have costs, Madam Chair, I'm not sure if we could actually, if committee would make a commitment at this time. So
I think I'm just getting that my vote might be totally different if we're talking about a project that's happening in 3 years from now. There's no point in going out for an RFP for something that's going to happen in 2025. But the thing is that for now, is council interested in relocating the council chambers, or are they interested in it remaining where it is?
And I believe the clerks can prepare a motion that states that perhaps it's that committee agrees with moving the council chambers, and then it can be voted on or defeated. But the clerks definitely can come up with some wording, and I'd be happy to chat with them during the break if need be.
Okay. Duncan and Heather, thank you for being here. If you've got work to do, I don't think you have to waste any more of your time, but appreciate it. And I'm sure that if we have further questions, we will send them your way. It's 10:22. Let's give the clerks some time to have a biological break and do this work. So let's come back at 10:45. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Okay, we've got a couple of counselors still missing. I guess I should check with the clerk's department if they've had enough time to. You guys are ready, Crystal?
I do have a motion to amend prepared.
Okay, hang on, we'll just wait for the rest of council. I just wanted to be sure you were ready to. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, just waiting for Councillor Withy, and just while we wait for him to return, I did speak to the clerks while we were on break because I realized there was a bit of a key piece of information that we hadn't discussed, and that is that the space on the main floor of Town Hall won't actually be available this year. The lease is not expired till August, and then the town will be using it for election purposes. So until after the next municipal election, which is the end of October, the space isn't available. So given that and the information that we currently need to seek, being the energy audit and things like that, I've asked the clerks to prepare a amendment to this to basically carry out the energy audit, to dissolve the working group, and to put all of the new information together and leave it for the next council. And with that, to continue to have the main floor where Club 55 is now used as unrenovated municipal space until such time as that. So Crystal's prepared something. I will need a mover and seconder for it, but that's the gist of it. We'll maybe get you to put it up first, Crystal, and make sure it covers all that, and if council is so desires to do that. So basically, we're accepting the report as stated. We're agreeing to the energy audit. We're deleting B and C, choosing interior or exterior options, and reporting back on the engineering costs of the front steps, and I guess the energy audit, but that's in there. And that Club 55 remain municipal space for the remainder of 2022. I'd like that to say unrenovated municipal space. If you could type that in, Crystal, because that just indicates that we're not actually going to do anything. So if council's seen that, if I can get a mover and seconder, and then we'll open it up for comments, Deputy Mayor Alcock and Councillor Schumacher. Whether council likes this approach or wants to see something different. Councillor Stone.
Are we going to choose a model for the front steps?
I think until the report comes back to say whether they need replaced or whether the bricks just need fixing, it could all be left for a future decision.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Your Worship. I think it's probably prudent for us to leave this for next council. I'm just wondering if we're going to strap them with the decision, should we strap them with no available funds to do it? Should we, as a responsible council, try and I know we've done our budgets, but how do we create a fund that is greater than what is existing now for this endeavor?
Well, we have working capital, we have different reserves, we still have the Waterloo Reserve, we have the ability to debenture. I think that we've probably accomplished a lot in this term of council as far as spending and spending without doing any debentures. So I'm not worried about the next council finding out a way to fund whatever they decide to do. And you know, it's the challenge that we're leaving the next council in a good financial position. So that I'm okay with. Councillor Withey?
Thank you. Sorry if I was a minute late. Were we not, as part of this, were we not deciding to keep the chambers where they are or in the basement? I thought that was going to be on this table.
That was, but you just missed it in the beginning. We realized that we're not doing anything in the year 2022 because the space is under lease until August, and then it's going to be used for the municipal election. So that space isn't even available until the end of October. So this resolution basically says we'll gather all of the information that we don't have as of yet and allow the next council to make that decision.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll call the question. All in favor of the amendment? And that carries. And then the original resolution as amended, all in favor of that? And that carries. And that seems like a long time that we talked about this, but you know, it was really good conversation, and the working group has really done a lot to put that together. So the time that we took to discuss it today, I think is good. Councillor Withey, are you prepared to take over? We moved a lot of the corporate services agenda from tomorrow to today to free up a bit of time tomorrow. So are you prepared to take over as chair now?
Can do.
Okay.
Let me get the paper. Where the heck did it? All right, sorry, I'll pull it up here. I buried it in all the other stuff here, so. Okay, we are at 4.21, delegation of authority easements. Jessica.
Thank you, Chair Withey. This report is with respect to authority to the Director of Operations and Protective Services for granting and releasing easements on town property where it wouldn't interfere with town operations and no additional financial implications to the town. An example of this would be Campus Trail. Prior to Campus Trail being declared a road, there were water and sewer services located in there, and the District of Muskoka required an easement, which required council approval. In addition, this authority is for acquiring and releasing easements on lands not owned by the town, where there's no financial obligation on the town. Another recent example was when a landowner approached us about realigning a stormwater management easement located on their lands. No concerns were found from a staff perspective, and there were no additional costs to the town to realign this easement. Any easements which would have a financial obligation or would interfere with town operations would still come before council for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions? I guess I should, is this written as a motion? Is it kind of, so should I be reading that motion? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I should have done that beforehand. That committee grants Director of Operations and Protective Services or their designate authority to review and approve requests for and release of easements for access, installation of works or utilities on town lands, highways, road allowances, and right-of-ways where there are no additional financial obligations to the town and where the installation would not interfere, hinder, or otherwise impair the town operations. And further, that the committee grants the Director of Operations, Protective Services, or their designate authority to acquire and release easements for access, installation of works or utilities on lands not owned by the town as required for town operations, and there are no additional financial implications to the town. And further, that bylaw 2021-17 being a bylaw to delegate authority to be amended to reflect this delegation and presented to council for consideration. Further comments or questions? All those in favor? Pass. Thank you. 4.2.2, Jessica, and I will read this first. This is about the acquisition and disposition of real property bylaw and leasing policy, repeal and place. That the acquisition and disposition of real property policy attached as Appendix 1 in the new leasing policy attached as Appendix 2 to Report Corp-2021-23 be approved, and further that the bylaws be forwarded to council for final approval. Jessica.
Thank you, Chair Withey. This report is with respect to an update to the acquisition and disposition policy. So firstly, the license of occupation section was removed as we brought in a new policy last year that covers this. The leasing section was removed into a separate policy. There's a few minor wording updates to the leasing policy, but the process remains the same. For the acquisition and disposition policy itself, the definitions were updated to provide clarity. The majority of the changes pertain to the exemptions. The previous exemptions didn't provide staff with any direction how to proceed on a transaction that was excluded. So now the exclusions have been reduced to transactions that are governed under other legislation, policies, bylaws, or delegated authority. The processes within the policies remain unchanged. There's still the various streams for acquiring property and the 2 streams for disposing of the property, which is town initiated and third party initiated. In the third party initiated process, the circulation of the neighbors has been removed. We don't have a legal requirement to circulate neighbors. We just have a requirement to provide notice to the public. And this particular step has caused a lot of contention where we have one party coming forward asking to purchase the land. We circulate the neighbors and they believe that they have rights over the original party, leaving council to decide who could purchase it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on this one? So we have a problem with alerting neighbors because all of a sudden they want it too. But we're still going to alert the public at large, including the neighbors.
I think
makes me think. Is there any Mayor Terziano?
Yeah, I think the thing is when we were alerting neighbors on their own, they were feeling that then they had the right to purchase, and that wasn't the purpose. So they would be notified at the same time as the general public. Is that pretty much why we're changing? Yeah.
Which means they could still show up and say, I want to buy it anyway. So, okay, I'll ask the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Any opposed? Councillor Thompson? Okay, I think he said something there, but that's okay. Okay, 4.2.3, Riva Frame report, 2021 council remuneration and expense report. You see Julia, or Riva's changed her hairstyle.
we're changing each other out. So I'm just going to present this on behalf of Reba. So it's just a requirement that is under the Section 284 of the Municipal Act that we have to report council remuneration and expense. So it's before you here, and it should be noted that we also publish this all the monthly on our website as well. So.
Okay, that's for information. So anybody want to comment or question? Councillor Schumacher?
They just might want to take one N out of my first name.
That's duly noted. Thank you.
There's no charge for that. Anyway, moving on. Lisa Smith, Public Sector Salary Disclosure for information. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, thank you, Chair Withy. So the information before you today is our reporting obligations under the Public Sector Salary Disclosure Act, which we do each year, and is for information only.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Anybody want to comment on how ridiculous this still is? We keep doing this on 1999 numbers, but anyway, we'll leave that. 4.2.5, Tanya Clea. There is a motion here that staff prepare a bylaw delegating authority to the Chief Administrative Officer to take action where necessary on the following restrictions listed in Section 275(3) of the Municipal Act 2001, should council be in a restricted position after nomination day, August 19, 2022. The appointment or removal from office of any officer of the municipality, and excluding those set out in Section 23(3)(1)(1) of the Municipal Act 2001. The disposition of any real or personal property of the municipality which has a value exceeding $50,000 at the time of disposal, and making any expenditures or incurring any other liability which exceeds $50,000. Tanya.
Thank you, Chair Withy. This is a report that I do right before every election. It just allows the CAO to conduct those few minor restricted things before the next term of office. So I'm here to answer any questions if needed.
Anybody? Oh, Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Withy, and to you, Tanya. As you said, you do this every time, but I always forget, and I'm sure you've answered it before. Presumably, this is just for those emergency situations when the CAO would have to make a decision that is rather unusual. Is that it's for emergencies?
If I may answer, Deputy Mayor, this is just for anything outside that's not in the budget that all of a sudden comes up unforeseen. This is to allow, should any, as it notes, any removal of office, should that occur within these two short windows of time, any expenditure, as you say, if something arose in emergency.
Right. If that's the case, is there a need to put emergency in there, or am I just being a bit too anal? I'm probably being a bit too anal.
I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole.
Okay, let's just leave that. Okay.
Oh, propose it if you like. It's fine. Mayor Terziano, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two quick questions. One, I guess, making any expenditures which exceed $50,000, does it have to be in the budget?
Tanya?
This would be over what's budgeted.
So the delegated authority gives the CAO the ability to spend money over $50,000 that isn't budgeted.
This is unbudgeted funds, yes.
And that's a standard clause?
There's actually four clauses in the Municipal Act. The one that is not here is to do with it's the CAO already has delegated authority in her bylaw already. These three that are here are in the Act as it is. Yes.
Okay. No offense to our current CAO, but you never know when you're going to get a rogue CAO out there. So I guess my other question is the CAO obligated to advise council of these moves?
There is nothing that says the CAO is obligated. However, the CAO can answer that question.
Denise?
I think Julia had actually, oh, sorry, I just got feedback there for some reason. I think Director Mackenzie had popped up to answer the question, but as Tanya noted, there is nothing in the Act that states it has to be reported, but any CAO who knows the importance of reporting to her council would absolutely do that. So any expenses that occurred, I do believe there's a reporting requirement within our financial policies, and I would be obligated to report that that expense if it occurred. So all of the protections are in place with the existing policies. And as Tanya noted, this is a very standard practice for CAOs across the province of Ontario, but we do have protections in place that make it mandated that I'd have to report back to council.
Mayor Terziano, do you feel that we should add a line to this that just states that for fun?
I don't know. Is it? I guess I'd defer to Tanya. Is it a standard in the Act, or do we have the ability to add something to it?
I think it's fine as is. I think what CAO Corey just noted, and perhaps Director Mackenzie wants to add, is your catch there. But again, this is for 2 short windows of time, from nomination day until election, and then election till the end of the term, which is even shorter now, as you are aware. So it's not for a long period of time. It's just a standard that most municipalities have, and most municipalities actually have it for ever. You'll notice that this report is only for the 2022 election. But if I defer, Chair Withey, to Director Mackenzie, if she had it any more to help the answer.
You're going to be helpful, Julia?
I think it's just to reiterate what our CAO said. Our budget and financial reporting policy would require that it be presented to council, and also any expenses that don't have a budgeted amount, generally you have to consult with the treasurer. So there'd be 2 people there that would be looking at it, and then it would be presented to council in writing.
Anybody else? I have a question. It says lame duck. Lame duck has a definition, that being if there's a certain number of council seats that are empty. Does it not? It's not just a lame duck because we say lame duck. There is a definition of lame duck. So if there's a certain number of returning councillors running for their seats again, is that considered not a lame duck, and therefore this would not be applicable?
That is correct, Chair Withey. Sorry, I'm getting feedback. It just depends on the nomination day when all the nominations are taken in. There'll be a determination of if we're sitting under those restricted acts at that time or not. We could possibly be not, and it would be moot. So that is true. And then on election day and other calculations, same thing. So this could be for naught, but we do it just in case it is, to protect council should something happen.
So it absolutely has to be an official lame duck for this to be triggered.
Correct. The calculations have to be made, yes.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 4.2.6, CAO Corey, Lakeland Holdings Limited.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The report's just a standard quarterly report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Anybody dive into that report? I was looking at floor plans. I don't know about you guys. Nothing? Okay. I guess do you want me to take it right to adjournment, or is it back to you, Mayor Terziano?
I've got that one, thanks, Chair.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Fitzgerald and seconded by Councillor Armour, is recommended that we do now adjourn at, when is it? All of a sudden my clock disappeared. At 11:09 a.m. All in favor? And that carries, and we are at regular general committee meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for the rest of our departments. Thanks everyone for good discussion today.